Welcome to Commanders Daily, everybody, your one-stop shop for everything going on with the Burgundy and Gold. I'm Bob Matthews. Hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss a day of it. Man, oh man, I'll tell you what, we have got a bunch of comments after yesterday's edition, recapping the loss in Atlanta. Going back over the tape today, and pretty much the same things you saw at full speed is what you saw on the coach's tape. And the biggest thing that stands out is going to be the defense, which we will get to in just a couple of minutes. So, Commanders now, after the 34-27 loss to the Falcons, are 2-2 on the year. They are 2-0 at home. They are 0-2 on the road, and they are going to Los Angeles to play the Chargers this weekend. They did get a couple of piece of good news, relatively speaking, for them. And that's that tackle Joe Alt is dealing with a high ankle sprain for the Chargers, so he is out. In fact, they are going to be missing both of their starting tackles this weekend, which could be good news for a defense that definitely needs some here after what we've seen the last month of the season. So what did we see on the tape when we watched it? Well, when it comes to the defense, there are a lot of problems there. Let's start with the defensive line first. That's technically the least of their problems, but there was no pass rush. It got the front four didn't really get a whole lot of pressure on Michael Penix Jr. Because of that, it kind of meant everything else behind it started to suffer. That's what Dan Quinn said in his press conference with reporters on Monday. Apparently, if this defense is going to work this year, it's going to be dependent on a pass rush. Now, why it was only four guys and there wasn't a lot of blitzing going on, I don't know. But I tell you what, it really made a lot of the other stuff suffer, and you can see it on tape. Bobby Wagner just cannot be covering somebody like Kyle Pitts in the open field. He just doesn't have the side-to-side speed anymore. And the defensive backs also had their problems. Marshawn Lattimore, we keep waiting for it to happen, and with each passing week, we start to get more and more concerned that he is just not the player that he was a few years ago. Saw him have a lot of trouble in coverage. Same thing for Trey Amos. A couple of times he had his hips flipped the wrong way. And more than that, we saw, and this just popped up on play after play after play on the coach's tape, that the lack of communication or the confusion in the defensive backfield. I don't know what was going on. Granted, you are down some personnel back there. Percy Butler's not back there. Will Harris isn't back there. But still, you do have three guys back there that do, or at least supposed to know what they're doing. But time and again, it looked like the defensive backs didn't know where to go right before the snap. And why Joe Witt Jr. is making it that hard, I don't know. Now, again, I'm not a coach. I'm not there in the meeting rooms. I don't know what, and none of us do. None of us know what the rationale is behind it. But logic would seem to dictate that if they're having problems with the communication, hey, why not just simplify things? Have play more man-to-man. Dumb it down. Make it simple. Keep it simple. Maybe that'll take away, some of the miscommunication problems. It's one thing if a guy gets beat one-on-one. We can all live with that. But if guys are getting open, if receivers are getting open because defensive backs are confused as to who to follow, that is preventable. That part right there is preventable. So we will see what happens when we talk to Joe Witt a little bit later this week. And we'll see if he's got any plans to change things up on the game plan. There were some positives. Josh Connerly Jr., I thought, had a pretty good game. I say that because we didn't hear his name called that often as getting beat. Cliff Kingsbury gave him a lot of help, both with Trent Scott as an extra, playing as an extra tight end, with Ben Sinnott helping chip and crack back on a lot of some of the blocks. But he also, I thought, handled himself very well. Did have a couple of plays. I'm not saying he was perfect. Had one block where he got flat out beat on, and there was another play where they got pressure on Marcus Mariota, the Falcons did, and Connerly's man got away from him by running a twist with another guy on the defensive line. Other than that, though, he was pretty solid. The left side of the line played great. Chris Paul had another really, really good game, and so did Laramie Tunsil. I expect it out of Laramie Tunsil, but Chris Paul, I tell you what, it's going to be hard for Brandon Coleman to get back on the field here anytime soon because Chris Paul is playing well. Connerly. One more note about Connerly. The big Chris Rodriguez 36-yard run that set up the Commanders' first touchdown, big block by Connerly to help spring him on that. So, like I said, he is starting to play well. That bodes very good for the offensive line. Now, we just got to get the defense playing a little better. Bottom line, regarding with the offense, you're missing your starting quarterback. You're missing your two best wide receivers, and they still put 27 points on the board. That's good enough to win. Defense has got to come up. Has got to play better than it did Sunday if they want to have any hope out in L.A. All right, let's go ahead and hit the mailbag. I love it when you guys drop us a line here. I tell you what, our question of the day: what do you think they got to improve on in order to get a win out in L.A. and go to 3-2? Let me know. Hit us up in the comments. Let's see. Shout out Diver799. Injuries had zero to do with this loss. The defense is old, slow, unathletic, and this is what you get from old players. I do agree with you about the age, and I think that could very well be a factor. Remember, for whatever reason, Adam Peters made the decision that if they could get Jaden some veteran help, they could make another run to the NFC Championship game and maybe get to the Super Bowl. Is that going to work? Hey, what we saw Sunday says no, it's not. But remember, the NFL is a week-to-week league, so let's see what happens. If the offense could have made more first downs and even scored more touchdowns, that could have kept the defense with their terrible pass defense off the field. Hopefully JD5 can make that happen. That's a shout out to Rennell Winchester 4374. So Rennell, thank you very much. And let's see, I got a couple more here that I wanted to get to. I will let you guys go and read Vaughn's comment, but let's just say Vaughn was not a fan of my critique, shall we say, of Marcus Mariota. But hey, I'm just telling you what I saw there. And again, it's one of those things where, it is what it is. And with that defense, you're going to need an offense and you're going to need a quarterback that is going to be able to make plays quarter in and quarter out. And Marcus just didn't make enough of them. But no, you're right. Not his fault. And again, the offense scored 27 points. That should be enough to win. Also, a shout out to Terry Windsor, 9779, writing us from all the way in the UK in Cardiff. And Terry, thanks very much. He has been a lifelong Commanders fan. Says, similar to the Packers game, we just couldn't seem to get a stop when we needed to. They took a lead, seemed capable of moving the ball at will. We just started very slowly again, and we're always playing catch-up. JD5 can only do so much, can't play defense, and we seem to be a little lightweight on that side of the ball. Pretty much dead on there, Terry. I think you're right. I think we have all identified the problem. Now let's see if Joe Witt can fix it. Talk to you again tomorrow. Commanders back on the practice field on Wednesday. Remember, like and subscribe. Hit us up with a comment. And like the wise man once said, if you're out on your bike tonight, as always, do wear white.